You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton, here hanging with you guys. Well, good morning. Well, guys, today we're going to be doing a guest interview. Super excited about getting so many of you guys onto the show this year. So many people have so much growth and success, and just a lot of folks bursting at the seams, but also just a lot of folks that are passionate about the green industry as well, which today's guest, we have Neil Roth joining us from Hamilton, Ontario. So, Neil, welcome to the show, brother. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, man. Well, really quick, your story is a little bit different. You don't own the company, but you are the foreman of a decent-sized company, Wilbrinks Lawnscaping. So we're going to hear a little bit more from how you work with crews, how you manage crews, how you are able to grow the company. We kind of call it like as an intrapreneur versus being the owner and being an entrepreneur. So this is going to be a little bit different kind of a show, man. So why don't we do this really quick? Get these guys up to speed. Maybe give them a minute or two, kind of like the highlight reel about who you are, where you're from, and how you got started working with Wilbrinks Lawnscaping.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the industry for maybe 3.5 years. I've always been super interested in it since I was in high school. So I was offered a kind of a co-op program from my high school. So when I was in my last semester of grade 12, I basically just got to go to work every day and work here. I got to learn all kinds of things about the trade. And then after I was finished with high school, they actually signed me up for an apprenticeship program, which involves some in-school training during the winter, which is perfect because that's not our busy season as landscapers. So then during the busy season, then I was out on the job. Basically, that was my practical training. So I did that for the 2 years. I graduated from that program. I still have the opportunity actually to write the official trade exam called the Red Seal, so I can actually become certified if I want to. So I'm still hoping to do that at some point. But yeah, I've since moved up from just being a general, basically crew hand laborer. They just put me wherever I was needed. I was kind of going back and forth between lawn maintenance and landscaping, hardscaping, and now I'm a foreman, focusing primarily on the hardscaping side of things. And I do sometimes help out with the lawn maintenance if needed, and I do a little bit of weed control and fertilization because I also have my pesticide license here in Ontario.
Oh, cool. Wow, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I really want to kind of pick your brain because one of the most common questions I get is, hiring good people. Hey, how do I get my guys to work? How do I get my guys to work good together, create chemistry? Keep them accountable to each other, build teams, build crews, and that's something that you're kind of directly responsible for. And then also, working on projects and whatnot with the hardscaping side. So I'm really excited about kind of going down the rabbit hole here, hearing a little bit more about how you do all this. So when you said that you're 21 now and you were 18, when you were looking into the industry, what was getting you excited about lawn care, landscaping, and hardscaping?
I'm not really sure, exactly. I've always really been interested in the trade. I watch the guys whipping around on mowers, cutting grass, and I think, that looks like a lot of fun. Or I see the guys putting in these beautiful patios and landscaping front yards and just taking a house that landscaping is awful or subpar and just doesn't do the house justice, and then completely transforming it and making it just something beautiful, and you just have this beautiful oasis or paradise or whatever you want to call it. That's always been something I've really enjoyed watching. I used to read all kinds of kind of like trade magazines and stuff and just look at all the pictures of the different jobs and equipment, and I've always just been really fascinated in it. So I definitely wanted to get into it. Definitely once I was at the high school age, I was really pushing for that.
Yeah. How did you? Well, I was going to say, and then how did you get started working at Wilbrinks? So did they recruit you like right out of high school, or when you were learning some different things in the field, or what?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting, a bit of a funny story actually. The owner, he's just part of like the broader church community that I'm also a part of here. So I'm a member of like the local Free Reformed church in Hamilton, and he's a member of one of the Free Reformed churches as well. So I mean, it's kind of like an everybody knows everybody type of community. But
sure.
Basically, he was cutting the grass for one of my aunts and uncles when I was like maybe 9, 10 years old at the time. So I knew him from that, and me and my cousin, who I would go there and play with all the time, we would always be out there watching him and talking to him and stuff. So that's kind of how that was my very first interactions with him.
Wow.
So years later, I found out that he was offering this apprenticeship program, and that he was looking to bring on more good workers. And so that's kind of how I got the job. I went and talked to him about it, and he offered me the job, offered me to enroll me in that apprenticeship program, and it kind of took off from there.
Summer showers, dust that chokes, acres that just won't end. Exmark knows the job of a landscape professional isn't an easy one. That's why we've crafted a legendary line of mowers built to overcome any obstacle. So you're ready to close the deal and finish the job, like you always do. Cut from the same red metal as your Exmark mower, you aren't just good at this. You were built for this.
That's pretty cool. Now, have you always been like you said, you started probably from the bottom rungs of the company, like, crew member and I guess, I don't know the org chart there, but crew member, crew leader, and then, foreman, working a couple different angles there. So talk me through that. What if somebody's listening in and they love the green industry, but maybe they don't want to sink $10, $20, $50, $100,000 into running their own business, or maybe they're not
right.
Maybe they're not there yet, but they want to get some, industry experience. What was your story like working for them, and your story the last couple of years?
So like I say, I started out, I was just kind of a general laborer. They would put me wherever I was needed. And basically, just because I stuck around and, I showed up for work every day, I put everything I had into this job. I wanted to learn. I always just made it really clear too to my boss and to my foreman that like I'm here to learn, and I really just want to get proficient at this. And I think he saw that in me, and so once I started getting to the point where I was more and more confident with these things, and he started sending me out on my own. So first, I technically have done, foreman type things. It's hard to explain, but I kind of officially became a foreman last year, the last season.
Mm-hmm.
But I was working kind of out on my own, or me and one other guy before that as well. Just so like when my boss saw that I was to the point where I could handle taking the truck out and mowing for the day, he put me on that, and we would have a lot of good talks together too. And he'd be like, so, what's your plan? Do you want to stick around here? Do you want to keep working? And I always told him like, yeah, I definitely want to keep learning and advancing and stuff. And he's like, yeah, that's great. And you can keep moving up, and we're going to put you in a more of a foreman position, and you'll have more and more responsibilities as you get more proficient at these things. So I would say it wasn't just like suddenly one day I became a foreman. It was more just like a gradual transition into that position as I became more confident in what I'm doing.
Sure. What did you like about Wilbrinks that made you want to stick around?
Truth be told, mostly the work environment. Like the guys that I've worked alongside for these past years have been awesome. We have a bunch of summer help as well, and they're all really hardworking kids. They're all great. We get along, so it hardly feels like work when you're out there and you're having a great time with these guys that you get along so well with. So that's what I really love about it. I also, of course, I enjoy the work we do. I enjoy the customers we have and the properties we work on. But for me, mostly it's, the guys the group of people that we have here.
Yeah. Amen to that. I always say the culture is going to trump anything. And
oh yeah.
Not only do you create company culture as the owner, but so does the foreman and even the other crew members and team members. Let me press you on that a little bit more. What's like a good company culture to you? What does that mean for you? And what does that look like at Wilbrinks? Like, you're like, hey, culture's something that makes me stick around, and I've really enjoyed working here for 3 years. But give me a day-to-day, maybe practical example.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things we're known for around here is just like, we're always ripping on each other in a friendly way. Like, we're always teasing each other.
Yeah.
Almost all day long. It's pretty funny, and that's just what makes it enjoyable. We're always, like I say, we're always ripping on each other, but it's all in good fun. It's all good natured. We got each other's backs. Like, someone can't come into work, or sometimes we got Saturday work to do, but Saturday's also a valuable day for everybody. So it's just kind of like, I'll work this Saturday. I'll cover it. You can take the next one or whatever. So we just kind of have that, we're here for each other. We're here to help each other. And
that's really cool. Did you notice that when you were just getting hired in the first couple days, weeks, months, or was that something that maybe has developed since you've been working there as well? Or, you know what I mean? Like, did you feel that vibe when you first signed up with the company?
I would say for sure. Definitely. The coworkers, there's kind of a couple main guys that have been here the whole time. And the summer helped, we got some more turnaround there. There's guys who don't work for us that did when I started or whatever. But the main guys, like, we always kind of had that good natured, back and forth. We're always kind of teasing each other. We're joking around. And
sure.
So I'd say definitely from the day I started here, it's always kind of been part of the work environment here, which is cool.
That's awesome. Well, one thing I'll say is there's a lot of stuff that you guys watch on Instagram and YouTube, and there's also a bunch of stuff, as you guys would imagine, that doesn't make it in the videos. And you got to keep it light. You got to keep it fun. We don't always keep it Disney, I say on the podcast and the YouTube videos, we keep it Disney because we have 9-year-old kids watching to, of course, 30-year-olds. But I remember, it was just yesterday, literally, we were doing a huge cleanup, or 2 days ago, actually. And Rob was doing some stuff, and then I did something, and Mark, one of our new guys, was like, I can't believe you just did that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so, like, it's just funny little weird stuff like that makes it go from, you always want to have those boundaries of like boss employee, because there has to be those roles. But I don't want my guys to think that I'm going to come in, throwing a wrench at the tool chest because I'm pissed off. Like, it's, you got to be like solid. You got to be stable. You got to have fun and keep it light. And when there's 30 yards of mulch to move and you're like, you're all aggressive and you're mad, or you're like, this has to, and you're that iron fist approach is more management versus leadership. And that's
absolutely.
Let me ask you about that. What's some of the things that you guys that you do specifically, Neil? Like when you're on a crew, or you guys are, what do you do when you're half a day behind because of rain? How any techniques or approaches or tips that you can give these guys when they're trying to motivate some guys and you're a day behind of work, and people are just tense, and what's some things that you guys do?
You know what? Like when it comes to something like that, where you're just behind and you got to get caught up. You kind of need to give a little bit of a pep talk or something like that, where it's just kind of like, you know what, guys, like, listen, we're a day behind, we're half a day behind. We got to just, put our butts in gear. We got to work twice as hard for this this day or whatever, just till we get caught up. And, it's going to suck. We're going to have to bust our butts, but, we're going to get through this together, and we'll be happier for it once it's all done and we're caught up again. And that, last year especially with the maintenance side of things and also with the construction, we had so many days where it was like, we were rained out, or it was so muddy on our job sites, and we were just falling behind, and we just, we had to bust our butts a little harder just to get caught up again. And yeah, I find just as long as the guys know that, it's not always like this. This is just a temporary thing until we get caught up again. And maybe last year it felt like it was happening a lot more, but
yeah.
I would say, definitely having kind of a bit of a pep talk or whatever you want to call it, just encourage them,
Man, that's awesome.
Until you can get caught up again, for sure.
Well, I remember a story once, and I'm not going to get it right, but you guys can probably understand where we're coming from, is that, like, you look at like Napoleon and some of these great leaders of war and battle, right? And they used to say, like, I remember a story or something like that of a soldier saying, like, Napoleon would give speeches and motivate his guys to where maybe they were the underdog and there was 10,000 soldiers on one team or one country and 5,000 with the other guy. And I remember them saying, like, every time Napoleon gave a speech, and it's probably attributed to any really great general or leader or, supreme leader, right? But anybody like that, it was like having an extra 5,000 men on the field. And it really does mean a lot to your guys when you're like, you're not trying to like rah Tony Robbins over here with your crew, but it is okay to be like, hey, dude, we can get it. Like, let's keep pushing. We got this. Like, and there's some people that they just complain like their guys aren't working hard enough and their guys aren't doing enough. And I'm like, that's probably not the best way to motivate them there, Tony Robbins. Okay.
Exactly.
And we've all been there, and it's an art. It really is, because, you can get another 10, 20, 30% efficiency out of people if you're a good leader. It's just a fact.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's kind of, it'd be an interesting conversation to talk to somebody who's an expert on this about different techniques and ways, and meet, a John Maxwell type would be able to explain that. But I think John's a little busy to get on the show. But anybody's got a name with John Maxwell, give me a shout. But but I've read so many John Maxwell books, and this stuff is real practical stuff. There's times when we're trying to get a bunch of work done or done by a certain time, or the rain's moving in, and really encouraging your guys and giving them some life can make the world a difference. And a lot of you guys already know this, but it's just one of those things where encourage them, man. Like give them on a 90-degree day, throw them a Gatorade or a water, and be like, dude, way to do a good job on that last lawn. Like Neil was just saying. Neil, let me ask you this: what's some things that you think owners do? Maybe something that owners think that they do good, and then what's some things that you think owners maybe struggle at with communicating to their guys? Like if you're working in the company, what's some things that you wish were communicated better to you? Let's say.
That's a bit of a tough question. Like, obviously it's kind of broad, but sometimes if the expectations for quality or quality standards aren't, communicated properly, then I go out and do the job, let's say, or whatever, and maybe it's not up to the owner's standards. I think that's a big thing. Like, having the foreman, having the guys who are actually doing the work, let's say, know what kind of quality they gotta
expectation
produce, because for sure. Like, I'd say that's a bigger one, something maybe that we struggle with sometimes, and it's just definitely important for the owner, or even for me as a foreman, to know how to communicate. Like, this is the quality that we have to have, and this is what we're looking for.
That's good. That's good. I'm taking notes as I write this down. I'm like, that's where a lot of conflict maybe can arise in relationships, right? It doesn't have to be. Sure, yeah. Doesn't have to be owner foreman or crew member foreman or owner, right? It could be your spouse. I'm thinking out loud, making sure my wife's not behind me, like, with the nod saying, I told you so. Right. Because expectation is huge. And if you come in, let me give you guys an example. You guys get done working, and maybe you guys have never dealt with this, but your boy has. But let's say you get home at 5:00 and your expectation is, I'm going to do quotes. I'm going to phone call coming in. Sorry. I'm going to do quotes. I'm going to go sharpen the blades. I'm going to go, answer emails and then do some billing. And your wife is at the top of the stairs handing you the baby or your two, rugrats that are, 5 and 3 and just says, hey, I need a minute and a glass of wine. You know what I'm saying? Like, those expectations are completely different. And so there could be some tumultuousness, and I'm sure all of you guys listening in have never dealt with any of these conversations, but and then you're like the caveman coming in going, where's my dinner? I want my steak at 6:00. It's funny, it's comical, but I'll tell you guys what, I mean, this will ruin your relationship and your marriage in 6 months or less. And it's funny, but it's not funny, And so you have to have that communication and understand expectations. And actually, I heard a really good one from Jordan Peterson. Like, if you were to ask your spouse, what would a perfect XYZ look like? What would a perfect spouse look like? What would a perfect evening look like? Have you had those conversations? And there's a lot of guys, Neil, that I talk to, and they're like, well, my guys don't do this, my guys don't do that, and I'm like, do they even know this? Do they even know the standard? Do they even know the expectation?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Well, let me do this real quick, Neil. Kind of like open mic. We'll probably button things up here in the next couple minutes. But what's some things that you want to share and that you're excited about, and maybe things that get you excited about the industry, or best practices, or things you guys are doing over there at Wilbrinks?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if I can talk about the industry as a whole, I think it's awesome to see such a huge community of guys out there on like the lawn care community on social media. It's mind blowing, like how much it's grown. And I think that's great because it's really going to help, clean up the image of what we as lawn and landscape professionals do. And I think that's awesome. I think it should be definitely more and more recognized as like, this is an actual trade or whatever you want to call it. Like, this is a good job to get into and a good industry to be in.
Yeah.
So that gets me really excited. Some of the things we do at our company that I like. I mean, I talked about how I like the company culture. We're taking good care of. We get a day in the summer where we all go golfing, and then we have a barbecue afterwards. Like, stuff like that for employee appreciation is huge. Like that goes such a long way. So they take good care of us over here. Even just something like, I personally had it where my personal vehicle, like my truck, was broken down for a long time, and my boss, obviously, I was to the point where he trusted me enough, but like he had no problem with me just booting around in one of the company trucks for the longest time until I had my personal truck up and running. So stuff like that. Obviously, it won't be possible in every company, but it's just like the idea of really taking care of your guys and showing them that you really appreciate what they do and how hard they work for you.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. One thing that we have on our logo, and it gets just glossed over because you guys have probably seen my logo like all over the internet, but it says in the huge like swooped middle part, it says family owned, and I genuinely try to like remember like my own values. Like, hey, we're a family owned business. It's me and a couple guys, and I don't care if you have 200 guys working for you or 2 guys working for you. Treat your guys like they're family. I mean, it goes such a long way. Like those gestures that Neil was just alluding to, paying for a meal once in a while, filling up your guys with like give them a $50, Speedway gas card. Like, just leave it in their truck or on their windshield wiper once in a while. If they're parking at your house or at the shop, and just put in an envelope and just write, hey, just because, keep up the great work. Like those little gestures, it cost you $25 to $50, but not to get like ROI on it. But what do you think the upside is to having your guys open up an envelope and there's 5 free car wash tokens. Just to send their car through the wash at the local place down the road, and it costs you $20, $30. Like, it means the world. And so Liz and I are always trying to figure out how to incorporate Rob into more things. He's our foreman, and another guy, Mark, we just hired on, and Mark's already picking up on the culture and the vibe. And and the last thing I'll say is, like, with our guys, like, they always know, like, I always try to be level-headed. Like, they're not going to get me randomly one day, like I said, throwing a baseball bat at the cage of bats, and just ripping up the dugout. Like, that's not that's not good leadership. And I joke, and Neil laughs too, but we've all seen it. We've all worked. We've all worked for a hothead or seen somebody who is a positional leader. And and I'm not saying, like, don't do that. I'm just saying, be the kind of person that you'd want to work for, right? That's I guess we're coming out with Neil on this episode today. So Neil, let me ask you one thing. You said you're really excited about what the lawn care community is online and what it's doing from the industry. What does that mean? Yep. What does that mean to you? Like, what you said, it's becoming a more recognized kind of profession. Like, it's not just like the high school push out guy. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But what does that mean to you? And where would you like to see our industry get to in maybe terms of that point you were trying to make?
Yeah, I just kind of want it to be more of a respected profession, because, like, I mean, for me anyway, it's not common for guys out of high school to choose that they want to be a landscaper and they want to work for a landscape company. It was not a common career, at least when I was in high school. And like, it was me and one other guy from my whole high school who were going into that profession. And I think part of that is just because landscapers and lawn care guys have such a bad image, and who knows why that is. But, I like that it's going more in the direction. And I mean, especially I notice it here where we are in Ontario. They have these apprenticeship programs where, the government is paying for guys to educate themselves for this industry, basically paying for all their training.
Right.
So that's encouraging to me, because it means, it's more of a respected and recognized profession now. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Amen to that. I agree. I think the best one is the whole, like, you go to a wedding, right? And you're at the reception after, and you're at the table with 2, 4, 8 people. And I mean, it's happened to me for 15 years, 13 years before I was able to, like, put my chin up. But it was like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a nurse and I'm an engineer. Like, you meet some other sharp couple, and like, what do you do? And I'm like, my wife makes yard signs and I cut grass. And the irony is, we're making more money than them, for real. And I was like,
yeah.
And like, he's like, I'm an engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer. And, and again, I'm not like trying to go tit for tat and who's better. It's nothing like that. But
no,
if we're talking about who's making money, and just like, or not even who's making money, but just that's what people do. They put their image into what they do, right? Their self-image. And and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. It's not a good idea, but they're like, I'm an engineer. And I'm thinking, well, good for you. And then he's like, what do you do? I'm like, I cut grass. I'm a landscaper. I own a lawn and landscape company for a decade now. Oh. Yeah. and I'm like, dude, what are you talking? I'm like, I'm banking what you're making, multiples. Like, what's just from the lawn care company. And it's like, I agree, man. I don't really care to have like anybody's respect or praises, because I don't do anything for any of that. But it still shouldn't be talked down to, in my but the irony is, like, if something, you want to sell your house or you're having a grad party, who's the first person you call? You call a landscaper because you want it all spruced up. And And people are like, oh, like, landscaper is this, and then the next minute they want their image to look good. They rely on a landscape. They rely on the landscaper to give them an image boost. I just find it so ironic, and
it is.
I don't know. Maybe you guys can relate at that one. You're probably nodding your head, going, "Yep, that's right."
Oh yeah.
It's like at church when it's like, "Yep, you got that right," So, I don't know if you guys go to churches where they're like, you'll have like the loud lady who's like, and it's like, my wife and I always find that funny, but anyway, it's more of a southern thing. But anyway, well, Neil, let's do this really quick, man. We'll button it up. If you want to give these guys a quick plug where they can follow you or the landscaping company you work with. By the way, you cleared this with your boss and the owner of the company. You're good to go. So I'm not gonna get a nasty email here in 2 weeks. But where can people find you guys, and what do you guys got going on social?
Yeah, so we just primarily are on Instagram. I mean, there's a Facebook page, but I don't think it's been touched in a while. So we're on Instagram, just at Wilbrinks Lawnscaping. And that's where we post most of our stuff. You can see a bunch of the work we do. You can meet some of the guys that work with me. So
cool.
Yeah, just check us out on Instagram at Wilbrinks.Lawnscaping.
Wilbrinks.Lawnscaping. And lawnscaping is a fun wordplay if you guys did pick up on it. Like, not lawn care or not landscaping, but lawnscaping, right?
Yep.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for adding some value to the show, adding some value to the listeners, man. Different kind of an episode. We always get the owners on, and when you were, you and I have been DMing back and forth for a couple of weeks now on Instagram. I said, you were like, hey, I offer a different perspective. I'm a foreman for a company. I'm really passionate about the industry. I'm like, that would be actually a really cool value add to all these guys listening in. So hopefully you guys appreciated Neil's perspective on things. So Neil, we'll button it up right here, man. Any parting words? But if not, we'll button it up.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, man. Well, good deal. All right, guys. We'll kind of button things up here, or land the plane, I think is what Paul Jameson always gives me some gruff about. Those are my transitions. That, and we'll have a sip of water, okay? But you know what? We enjoy doing what we're doing. We're not professional podcasters by any means, but we are passionate about helping you guys grow a more successful lawn and landscaping business. And hopefully you guys enjoy the show. So let's do this really quick. We'll kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer. We love hearing from the show sponsors and announcements, which, by the way, guys, sincerely, they make the show happen. Also, if you guys haven't left us a 5-star rating or review just yet, it's been a minute since I've been able to kind of plug that. We've just been going hot, trying to create and pump out as much content as possible to give you guys something to listen to every day while you're out mowing and doing landscaping. But if you guys are going to switch the track, or you're going to look down and it's going to play the next episode anyway, can you do me a big solid? Can you just hit the 5 purple stars, give us a 5-star rating and review, and or also on Spotify? I think they just opened that up not too long ago. We really appreciate it. It definitely shows some love, and it really helps out with getting placed in the top of the charts and the suggested and the algorithm and all that mess. So in all sincerely, it takes 2 seconds, but it goes a long way, right? So thank you so much for doing that. All right, guys, we're going to button up right here. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast, and we'll catch up with you guys here on the next one.
Summer showers, dust that chokes, acres that just won't end. Exmark knows the job of a landscape professional isn't an easy one. That's why we've crafted a legendary line of mowers built to overcome any obstacle. So you're ready to close the deal and finish the job, like you always do. Cut from the same red metal as your Exmark mower, you aren't just good at this. You were built for this.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.